You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching the variety show, and we are so happy to have brought this show back. We had this show on at a different time, and then I put it on hiatus for the summer, and I thought, let me bring it back. So today is our first show. So welcome and thank you for being here. I'm your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We have a very special guest with us today, and I hope that you will engage from the social media platforms. We love to hear from all of our audience across the world. My guest today is Kati Raphael, also known as Gothstrologyy, and she's joining us from LA. Hi, welcome.
Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's nice to have you with us. Thank you so much. I am just going to stream your banner. You are talking about subjects that we haven't discussed on this show before, so I'm very excited. When I connected with you, I don't know if it was Clubhouse or Instagram, but how we connected, and I saw what you do, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I want to share this with our audience. So before we begin, I had asked you backstage, what would you like our audience to take away from the show? So please do share what you shared with me.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe it was Clubhouse where we originally connected, and then we moved on to Instagram and started chatting. So it was great that you gave me this opportunity. Thank you so much. And the primary thing that I would really like for the audience to be able to take away from this whole experience is that astrology can be so much more than just the typical superficial things that you see on magazines or online. Like, once you go into it and you get deeper, it really is an art, and it can be a science if you really let it. And there's so much more to learn from it.
Fantastic. So for someone who doesn't know, when I think of astrology, I think of, okay, I was born in March and my sign is an Aries. And then as I'm an Aries, maybe there's some numbers, certain numbers that mean certain things. So I really don't have a clue. I'm sure there's a lot of people, we see things like, and I'm really dating myself, Cosmopolitan magazine, or there's the astrology section. But to your point, it is so much more than that. So first of all, what is it that led you to have this interest in astrology?
That's a great question. I think, honestly, when you bring up things like Cosmopolitan magazine and all of that, I think that was as well for me my start and my reference point for astrology. And I think for a lot of people out there, their very first sort of reference point for astrology came out of magazines, and that sort of little section in the magazine where it said, oh, this is your monthly horoscope and things like that. But what I think ultimately led me down the path of astrology was just seeing it sort of circulate online and then being curious. I saw this sort of map type thing. It looked very complex, and it was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and I was determined to understand what it was. So in my determination to try to figure out how to interpret that very sort of convoluted web-like image, I led myself down this path of astrology, and I wound up absolutely loving it.
And Gothstrologyy, can you share with us what is the difference between astrology and forensic astrology?
Sure. Well, when I put forensic astrology specifically in my titles, it's because a while back, I began merging my interest between, let's say, true crime and astrology. So that forensic astrology is a sort of different subcategory. It's a little sort of on the fringe right now, but what it is using the techniques of astrology, the various techniques, everything from, mapping to predictive astrology, and trying to use that in a way to help solve certain crimes. So it's a tool.
Fascinating. I love watching true crime shows and Law and Order and all of those. So can you delve a little bit deeper as to how it is a tool to help in this area?
Right. Well, first, to explain how that would even be a tool, you have to understand how this level of astrology works. Because when you're dealing with actual astrology, so to speak, normally what we've been exposed to through popular media and all of that would just be what is known in astrology as your sun sign. So that would be, the month that you're born, as you mentioned earlier, you're in Aries. And going back to the origins of astrology, the ancient cultures all across the world, because astrology is found in many different cultures, this was a way to tell time. So each sign was a way to divide up the months, and thus that was able to divide up the seasons. So each season had a certain temperament, and you have this wheel of 12 signs, so to speak, about 12 months. And then that is just sort of the basis and the foundation. However, the sun, which is, let's say, the time where you were born, the month that you're born in, that is only one of many, many aspects of who you are, your personality, and everything. So to derive an actual horoscope of an individual, that would be to take all of the snapshot of all of the planets in our solar system at the moment of your birth and at the location of your birth. So to take forensic astrology, you would take, depending on the case that you're working on, you could take the chart of the moment, because you can also do mundane astrology. So it would be to give you an idea of what was going on, the energies present at the time of the crime. You could take a look at the chart of the potential victim and then try to see what kind of failings or sort of trappings were going in. Well, not failings, you don't want to blame the victim, but what was going on in their life at the time and what sort of indicators that could bring in.
It's really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. As you were speaking, I was remembering that many years ago, I met with a friend who's a psychic medium, and she offered to do a reading for me. And I kind of was like, oh, and she was tying it to astrology. And so she predicted, and again, this is years ago, she predicted that I would be doing something similar to what I'm doing today, which I just started last year during the pandemic. So the reason I bring it up is I'm wondering what, if any, is the correlation between psychic mediumship and astrology?
Well, the correlation would be that in this case, astrology can be used as a divinatory tool. So that would be a tool to predict the future, so to speak. And then psychic mediumship, that would be a person that specifically has a natural sort of gift or a talent, and that they have developed and worked on it to try and see the future through various means. So the correlation between astrology and psychic mediumship would be that either a medium could use astrology to sort of, let's say, predict what could happen in the future, or they would probably read your energy, and then if depends on their own intuitive process and their own gifts and how that works for them, really how they would interpret that.
Wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. So, Gothstrologyy, do you do readings? I don't know if that's the right term, but astrological readings for people?
Yes. For a while, I was doing full-on natal chart readings, which would be that I would take, that snapshot of the moment that you were born, and then go ahead and explain all of that in detail and give you a full report. For right now on Clubhouse, I've actually, later tonight, I am launching my new club. So it will be, it's a bit sort of like a teaching moment. So I hope to be able to reach out to the audience in Clubhouse, mostly through astrology, and try to teach other creatives how to look into themselves. So it's more of consultations and lessons as opposed to actual readings.
Mm-hmm. And for our audience members who may not be familiar with Clubhouse, which I know seems hard to believe, but Clubhouse is an app that is on your phone, and your phone is actually a stage, if you will, with where the speakers would stand and then where the audience would be. And it's enabled us to make connections all across the world in ways that we never could have dreamed of, with people we probably never would have had the opportunity to meet. How has it, being on Clubhouse, how has it changed your life personally and professionally, if it has?
Oh, it's changed so much for me. I mean, prior to Clubhouse, my experience with social media was quite difficult in terms of using it as a means to further astrology and further that agenda. Specifically with Instagram, I've now tried to make my return to Instagram, because I guess I am very word-based, and Instagram and most social medias will be very condensed and very image-based, and they want to get to something quick. And it's been very difficult for me to try and condense the information that I'm trying to give out to my audience and the things that I would like for people to know. Whereas Clubhouse, it gives me this sort of platform and the stage where I can go ahead and not only freely speak, but people can go ahead and ask me questions in real time. That really makes the conversation very interesting.
And when you think about your audience on Clubhouse per se, how would you define it? Would you say it's mostly creatives?
Well, I would say that my audience on Clubhouse is quite different from the audiences that I've got on other social media, let's say Twitter, which is where I originated, and Instagram. Because on Clubhouse, there's a lot of people who are much more professionally ambitious, and there's definitely a lot of creatives. There's a lot of aspiring, actors or people who are already in the industry that just want to continue to further their careers. So it brings up a very interesting realm for me to be able to discuss astrology. In this case, I would be able to analyze and give out that information to a lot of people. For example, discuss the differences between fame, talent, and genuine mastery of someone's work, and how that comes out in the natal chart, and how, one individual who was, to say, an aspiring actor would be able to, instead of feel defeated and say, oh, I'm not like that person, can look at what they have and how they can work with them and continue to sort of flex those skills or work those creative muscles.
It's really fascinating. And so you are on Twitter, as you mentioned, and Instagram. And for our audience listening on the radio, the way you can connect is on Twitter and Instagram, Gothstrologyy, Gothstrologyy. Where are you on Clubhouse? Is it the same?
No, on Clubhouse, it's at Asterio, so it's AESTERIOS.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we are going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. When we come back, I'd love to sort of transition into the other areas that we're streaming, occultist and horror. And I'd love to have some insights on that. Is that okay with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Stay with us here on USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. We're so happy that you're here. We will be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our ministry alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most radio the other stations are tuned into.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hi, welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching The Variety Show, and my guest today is Kati Raphael, who is also known as Gothstrologyy, and the founder of House of Gothstrologyy, a place for creatives to learn, practice, and grow, and is an astrological consultant. The first segment, we were just getting to understand the difference between astrology, forensic astrology, and the work that you do in that area. We also touched on Clubhouse, and there's something exciting happening tonight, so I'd like to just touch on that again. What is going on tonight on Clubhouse?
All right. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Tonight on Clubhouse at around 8 o'clock Pacific time, I will be launching my first room in the House of Gothstrologyy. So feel free to join in. Basically, what it's going to be is a bit of an introduction to the club and what the mission statement of that is. And for anyone who would like to join in as a member, if anyone would like to go ahead and do that, mostly what it's going to be for members is people that were willing to lecture on a specific topic of astrology and are willing to host rooms regarding that. So feel free to go ahead and join the room, ask any questions that you have about what the club is going to be about, and anything that you would like to ask if you want to potentially be a lecturer on there.
And just for those of us who are interested and don't know, what might be some of the areas of astrology? If someone's saying, wow, I want to join, what might those topics look like?
Well, specifically for this club, as I had mentioned earlier, if anyone is joining us now, on Clubhouse, I've found mostly a lot of people who are really very creative and are aspiring to either join the industry or further their career in the industry. And I thought that astrology would be a very useful tool in this case, as well as just something of a little bit of fun. And so what it would be for this specific club would be to be able to discuss topics of astrology ranging from, you know, beginners classes all the way to more advanced topics, to take a look at an individual's sort of chart and be able to discuss what makes that creative function. Earlier, I had discussed being able to sort of dissect the differences between fame, talent, and genuine mastery over a work, because there are, I believe, a lot of sort of, I guess, celebrities that we all know of that are famous and they're well known, they're familiar faces, but can we genuinely say that they are, you know, incredible at their craft? Like, just because someone is famous, just because they're the famous actor, doesn't necessarily mean that they've won an Academy Award or something like that. So I'd like to be able to highlight those sort of distinctions and inspire others to be able to look at their own charts, look at their own abilities and capabilities, and be able to continuously work towards those, sort of like a muscle, and hopefully be able to achieve their highest potential with that.
Thank you so much. That sounds really fascinating. I'm wondering, when I want to transition to some other topics about you. So when I saw you on Instagram and how you had described yourself, and I created this banner for you, I've included occultist and horror. And I'm wondering, how do you feel that these words relate to you and what it is that you do in the world?
I sort of added that in as a bit of a distinction, I guess, to my social media brand from the rest of all the other astrologers and mystics and everything that's online, because everyone else, at least from what I've seen, there's so many people that are wonderfully spreading all of this joy and love and bettering yourself. But I guess I've always had this preferences for thematics and just the sort of darker side of things. So I included that. And when it came to the content that I would put out, as I mentioned earlier, I discussed about true crime and astrology, forensic astrology. So for some shorter bits for social media, I would like to bring up some horror classics and actors or rock musicians, et cetera, and that's where that sort of stuff came in, as well as a lot of the imagery used in some of my posts will be sort of occult imagery and that type of thing, just to sort of keep the aesthetic consistent.
So it's, if I understand you right, it sounds like it's part of your branding to differentiate yourself from others who are in the area of astrology?
In a way, yes, and it's also very much part of just who I am. Outside of that as well, I mean, I've always had, I guess, a fascination for the occult and mysticism and esotericism, partially because I was raised very, very strict Christian. So it sort of appealed because that was, you know, the forbidden. That was, no, you can't go there. And then once I did start exploring all of that, it was absolutely fascinating to see, because occult in itself, the term, is simply something that is hidden. And occultism as sort of, I guess, a practice really is a lot like being an anthropologist, I would say. You read a lot on what has been, quote unquote, hidden knowledge throughout different cultures and things that have been tried, that have Christianity has tried to stamp out, or sort of colonialism has tried to stamp out. So therefore it is considered occult knowledge. And it does get kind of messy and convoluted at times, because there are so many different accounts of things that have happened, and there's so many different sects because it has had to survive underground for centuries. But it's a fascinating subject.
Thank you for that clarification, and also for sharing a little bit about your upbringing. I'm wondering, as you went on this journey to learn more about occultism and what it maybe even what it used to be versus what it is today, how did you do your research, or how did you gain the knowledge that you have today?
Ooh, good question. Really, it's just been a lot of reading. I think a lot of it started, once again, when I was a lot younger as a kid. I spent a lot of my time in school libraries and just libraries in general. Like, books were my best friends. And I guess you can only read like fantasy novels and young adult novels for so long before you completely get bored of the same type of story formats over and over again. And I just started expanding into other sections of the libraries and reading so many other things. And I found a fascination for that. And then I continued on. And then, through the internet and growing up and all that, I started reading plenty other articles online, and then going through a lot of scholarly articles, a lot of anthropological articles and things like that.
And it sounds like we all have our own journey, right? And so your journey might be different than mine, might be different than someone else's. But I think as we go on our journey and we grow, that our circle of people that we have in our lives changes. And so I know for myself, leaving corporate America last year and now broadcasting, I've got a different group of people being on Clubhouse. And so I'm wondering, with astrology and occult and your journey, has your circle changed as well?
Oddly enough, no. When I began my astrological journey, like formally, I have a really close friend whom I'm still very close friends with, and they will actually be at the House of Gothstrologyy launch tonight. That we sort of began our journey together, and we compared notes, and we still do. And so I'm very much within the same circle of friends. It's just that they've seen me evolve, and I've evolved, and I think that it's really a privilege, and I feel very blessed and very privileged to be able to have that, just such a close-knit group of people that even though we continue to evolve and change and grow, we still communicate with each other, and we're still there for each other, and we get to watch each other carry on and completely change.
Congratulations. That's beautiful. That really is. I'm wondering, astrology, how has the pandemic impacted you personally and professionally?
Well, at the beginning of it all, I really had to put all of my astrology stuff on a hiatus. So I was absent for the past year or so because I, for my day job, I work in the medical field. So it has been very intense. I had absolutely no time for anything. And then even when I did, it was just so emotionally and psychologically overwhelming and stressful that it just wasn't something that I was going to be able to devote my time to. But now I really wanted to get back to it, and with this sort of hunger to just get back into the game and I guess really distract myself from the horrors that have been this past year.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing and have done to help other people. I can only imagine how mentally exhausting that must be.
I mean, I definitely think that I'm fortunate we've worked in pharmacy, so I'm not anywhere near like the really, really intense stuff. Like, I'm not in the intensive care unit, so I feel very fortunate for that. And then now I've had the privilege to see all of these people get vaccinated. So it's refreshing to see so many people come in for vaccines, and it gives me a little bit of a relief.
So you've seen it from one way and one perspective, and now another.
Yes, it went from one way of just this sort of dread of getting all of these calls coming in of doctors being very confused as to what to try and prescribe certain patients for these symptoms and trying to figure things out. And then other people trying to figure out, what to even do to protect themselves, to now seeing people coming in with little vaccines and walking away all excited, taking pictures that they're getting their first or second dose. It's great.
That's very exciting. You mentioned something in the beginning that I want to go back to now, which is so the area of that you are really specialized in, astrological consultants. You were not able to really focus on this because of the pandemic, and now you're picking it back up. So, is it possible for anyone / everyone to find some type of niche in astrology? Is it something a talent that you're born with? Is it something that's learned?
I really do believe that everyone could find their sort of niche in astrology. I don't think it's a talent. I think what is innate in learning astrology and having that sort of, I guess, capacity for it really is patience or curiosity, or both, because it is a lot of information to take in. It is a lot of reading. It is a lot that you have to condense. And with astrology, what I personally find to be the beauty of it is that you never stop learning. There's always something else. There's always some other perspective. It's just such a vast topic that you will never stop learning from it. So you could have studied for decades, and then there will suddenly be someone else that maybe has studied for only a few years, but they have a completely different perspective on something, and you can learn from them. And I think that's just wonderful.
I agree. And I'm also wondering if you think about the chicken and the egg scenario. So if I go back to what I was told about how my career was going to change and progress, and at the time, I have to say I was a non-believer. I thought, oh yeah, this sounds really good, but I think it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And then as time went on and I started with this platform and I interview psychics and mediums all the time, I have a different perspective. But if you do an astrological consultation for someone and you share what it is that, I don't know, what would you say, what it is that's telling you? Is it in other words...
It all depends on what the person's asking. For the most part, I don't delve into predictive astrology too much. Like I said, I'll take much more of an analytical perspective. So that can go either analytical from something as simple as your natal chart and interpreting that, learning how to interpret that for yourself, or let's say an event chart, a certain situation, or if you want to look at a relationship. Synastry, I think, was more of my, really, I guess, where I shine.
And what has your experience been with receptiveness of people? Like, obviously someone comes to you and says, hey, I'd really like to learn this. But do you find in general that society is interested in astrology, or people are afraid of it? People don't want to talk about it?
I feel like in recent years, it really has been like a bit of a renaissance in it. A lot of people are interested, specifically much younger generations. They're very interested by it. There seems to be a bit of an odd gap in which there's a certain age to which people seem to be very fascinated by it, and then they stop and become very afraid of it, and then it picks back up again. So it's like there's this little chasm of people in between certain ages that just want nothing to do with it, and then past that age, they're like all about it. So it's kind of fascinating.
That is fascinating. Can you share with us in your experience what that age group, or those age groups would be for fascination and fear?
From my personal experience, very, very generally speaking, it would be around like under 40s would be really fascinated. Beyond that, they get really scared, it seems. And then mostly I'd say 35 and under really is where they're quite interested, and then afterwards they kind of don't really want anything to do with it. They're either afraid of it or just in denial, and they just say, no, none of that. It's all fake. It's all like bull, whatever. And then once we hit around like 55 or 60 and up, they're also very into it again, which I find really fun.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm 58, so I'm in the very interested category now. So another question I have for you is, the information that you deliver, do you think that it can be really transformative to someone's life if they embrace it?
Oh, certainly. I think for me, it has definitely changed my life when I was able to come into that and begin to understand myself. And that really helped me along also my own personal therapeutic journey with my therapist. And that was, it became a tool to be able to dissect certain things and understand your own processes and how that all works. And for every person, it'll be very different because not everybody analyzes things the same way. Some people even have a very difficult time analyzing things in that manner. However, if there is someone along with them to help that, for example, whether it be an astrological consultant or it be a psychologist, something like that, it is something that anyone really could benefit from, because it's sort of like having a little self-help from someone else. I think it comes down almost to like saying that anyone could benefit from therapy, really, if they choose to go along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And so when we talk about that type of transformation, as we come to the end of our show, I just wanted to delve a little bit into physical transformation, because you used to be a makeup artist and you would help transform someone's looks, which I think I also was a makeup artist as a side job for many years. And I just loved it because somebody came in looking and feeling a certain way, and then you did a makeover on them, and then they would leave and feel a different way. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, it was certainly something. I mean, I've kind of bounced around quite a bit from professions sort of unintentionally. But yes, I did get my start in makeup, and I think I loved the art of it more than I liked the actual environment and the actual job and implications. It's I kind of tend to get very lost in a lot of the details. So I like doing a lot of detail work. I like doing a lot of editorial work and special effects, that sort of thing. And to this day, something that I do a lot just to relax myself and as a hobby is like, it's just art is a passion of mine, and it's something very personal. I think there's so many things that words alone cannot express, and that's where imagery comes in. And it doesn't necessarily have to make any coherent, logical sense, but once you see it and you have this sort of, it invokes a certain feeling, that's all that really matters.
Absolutely true. I've shared this story before, but just very quickly, when I was a makeup artist, this woman would come in and she would buy certain things at one counter and then return them a couple days later at a different counter. And she finally got to my counter, like after weeks of doing this, and she was buying green eyeshadow and red lipstick, which, that takes a lot to carry that off, right? Because they're both, you don't know where to look. So anyway, spoke to her about it. And I asked her, what she was trying to accomplish. And she wanted to draw attention to herself because she felt like her husband didn't see her anymore. So there was a lot of kind of therapy that you provide when you're working with somebody and getting their feelings out, and what is it that they're feeling, and what are they trying to have the world see when they show up. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you did get that.
No. But it's been an absolute delight having you here. I want to spotlight you and ask you to just share, how can people reach you and who should contact you?
Well, I am available on Instagram. If you look at the banner, it's got all of my handles on there. So Instagram, Twitter, and then on Clubhouse, And like I said, just look up House of Gothstrologyy. That's with 2 Ys, and that will be launching tonight. So you can go ahead and reach me on there, and you can reach me also if you'd like if you really want to work on yourself, or if you would like to just learn about astrology and you have the patience to learn, because it is quite a lot. It's a lot like learning a new language.
And the time of the room you're hosting tonight is
8 p.m.
Pacific Standard Time, so that would be 11 Eastern Time. All right, fantastic. Well, I loved having you here. I hope you'll come back and visit us again on this show or one of our other shows, and let us know what's going on in your world.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And by the way, you can go over to USA Global TV on YouTube, and you can watch this from the beginning. You can also get the link and copy and share there for your network. All right, thank you, Gothstrologyy. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, everybody. We have fashion, fitness, travel, and leisure is coming up right after this in about 19 minutes. My co-host is Diane Floyd-Boehm, and our guest is Sandy Adams. We're welcoming Sandy back. She is a wealth of information. She is with Cruise Planners. That's her company, and she actually just went on a cruise. She's going to tell us if you're traveling, you want to travel around the world, you want to go on vacation, you want to set up a trip. She'll let you know what you need to know as you travel around the country or outside the world. She will also make suggestions for fabulous destinations that you can visit, and she's going to give us some highlights from her cruise. So I hope that you'll join us for that. Right after that, we have A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. This is our presentation platform where you can come on, like Gothstrologyy. I didn't speak about this yet, but we have people who are experts who have joined our team, and they come and present 15-minute lessons to help make us better personally and or professionally. And then after that, we have Pet Psychic Amina, and our guest is AJ Waniger. So I hope you'll join us, and I will do a quick change and be back with Diane and with Sandy. Thank you again. Thank you, Gothstrologyy. Take care.